The night sky above the alien city was heavy with smoke, glowing with strange red lights from towers that touched the stars. In the deepest corner of the galaxy, there was a place that many whispered about but few had ever seen, a place where shadows walked freely and secrets were sold like coins. This place was called the Market of Shadows. The air smelled of metal and burning oil. Creatures with claws, wings, and eyes like burning coals walked slowly through the market streets. Cages lined the pathways, some filled with strange animals from distant worlds, others with beings who looked like people but were not. And tonight, in one of the darkest corners of the market, a human girl sat in chains. Her name was Lena. Her hair tangled, her clothes torn, her lips dry. She was thin, tired, and shaking, but her eyes still held a small fire. A spark that refused to die. Around her cage stood tall alien guards with thick armor and cruel laughter. They knew what she was worth. Humans were rare here, very rare. To most of the galaxy, humans were only a myth, a story told in smoke-filled bars. But to the right kind of buyer, humans were worth more than gold. Not because of their minds or skills, but because their flesh was seen as the most delicate meat in the universe. Lena sat quietly, her heart beating fast. She could hear the sounds of the market echoing, claws scraping metal, chains rattling, the shouts of buyers as they argued over prices. "Fresh human," one of the guards shouted, his voice deep and proud. "Sold for meat, the best you will ever taste." The crowd turned, dozens of alien eyes locked onto her cage. Some were red, some yellow, some had no pupils at all. They stared at her the way wolves stare at sheep. Lena pressed herself back against the cold bars, wishing she could disappear. The auction began. Numbers shouted, offers rising, laughter growing loud. Dare, every voice sounded like a death sentence to her. She closed her eyes, her lips shaking. Then she whispered, so soft only the figure beside her could hear, "Hold me, use me, just get me out of here." Beside her cage stood a tall figure, his face hidden under a dark hood. Unlike the others, he did not laugh, he did not shout, he only watched, silent and still. The guards treated him with respect, even fear. Lena didn't know why she whispered to him. She didn't even know who he was, but something inside her told her that this figure was different. Maybe cruel, maybe kind, but different. The bidding grew hotter. A fat alien with 6 arms raised the price. Another creature with long, sharp teeth hissed and raised it again. The guards grinned, proud of their prize. But then the hooded figure raised his hand, calm and slow. He spoke in a voice that carried through the crowd like thunder. "I will pay double." The market went silent. Every eye turned toward him. Whispers rose like a storm. No one dared to argue. No one dared to raise the bid higher. The guards nodded quickly, greed shining in their eyes. They unlocked the cage, dragged Lena out, and pushed her toward the hooded figure. Her legs shook as she stumbled forward, her chains clinking. She looked up at him, but still his face was hidden. Only his eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. The deal was done. The crowd began to disperse, disappointed but respectful. They knew better than to fight against this buyer. As he took hold of her chain, Lena's breath caught in her chest. Was this the end, or was it the beginning? Her heart screamed with fear and hope at the same time. The hooded figure said nothing. He only led her away, past the cages, past the laughing guards, past the burning lights of the market, his steps steady, hers weak. Behind them, the market of shadows continued, the sounds of other Keishans filling the night, screams mixed with laughter, lives traded like coins. But for Lena, the world had just changed. She had been bought, sold for meat, but still alive, still breathing, still walking. She didn't know where he was taking her. She didn't know why he had paid so much. But deep inside, she whispered again, this time only to herself, "Please, just get me out of here." And in that moment, the market of shadows seemed darker than ever. Yet a tiny light began to burn, a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, this story was not ending here, but only beginning. The path out of the market of shadows was narrow and crowded. Flames from strange torches flickered against the walls. Shadows stretched across broken stone. The hooded figure moved without hesitation, his grip on Lena's chain steady. She stumbled behind him, her legs weak but her mind racing. Every step felt heavy. Every sound in the market echoed like thunder in her ears. Whispers followed them, alien voices buzzing like insects, some filled with envy, others with fear. "The hooded one bought a human," they murmured. "He paid double." Their words slithered through the dark air. Lena dared to look up at him. His hood covered most of his face, but beneath the shadows she caught a glimpse of his eyes. Not red, not glowing like the others, but pale and sharp, almost human. The thought made her heart beat faster. He said nothing as they passed towering gates of black metal. Guards nodded quickly and stepped aside. No one dared to block his way. Outside, the city stretched endlessly. Towers rose like knives. Airships floated on chains, neon lights burned against the smoky night. The figure led her to a small transport ship waiting at the edge of the docks, its hull scratched and scarred from many battles. Lena's chains rattled as she was pulled inside. The door closed with a hiss, sealing her away from the noise of the market. Inside, the air was dim and cold, the ship hummed. Like a living thing, strange markings covered the walls, tools and weapons hung from racks. A seat sat in the center, made of worn leather. This was no luxury vessel. This was a ship built for survival. The hooded figure removed his cloak and dropped it across the seat. Lena froze, her breath caught in her throat. He was not like the other aliens. His skin was rough, his jaw sharp. Scars ran across his cheek, and though his features were not fully human, there was something familiar in his shape, his movement, his silence. She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. What? What do you want from me? He turned slowly, his eyes locking onto hers. His voice was low, calm, yet filled with weight. Survival. The word struck her like a blade. She pulled her chains close to her chest, confusion twisting inside her. Was he going to eat her? Use her? Sell her again? She didn't know. She couldn't trust him, yet she couldn't stop staring at him. He moved to the controls of the ship, pressing a series of buttons. The engines roared to life. The ground outside shook. The vessel lifted into the air, rising above the towers. The city fell away beneath them. Through a small window, Lena saw the market of shadows shrink into nothing but a glow of red lights. For the first time in what felt like forever, she was leaving. Yet the chains still burned her wrists. She was not free, not yet. The hooded figure sat in silence, guiding the ship through the darkness of space. The stars stretched endlessly. Planets shined in the distance. Lena stared, her heart pounding. She wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but fear held her tongue. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet but strong. You are not safe. Not yet. They will come for you. Lena shivered. Who are they? The hunters, he answered, his eyes hard. The ones who feed on your kind. They will not let you disappear. Not after. For such a price was paid. Her chest tightened, the chains felt heavier. She wanted to scream, to run, but there was nowhere to go, only the cold steel walls around her. He glanced at her once more, his scarred face unreadable. Do not speak loudly, do not draw attention, and never beg them for mercy, it makes them hungry. Her lips parted, words trembling out. Then why? Why did you buy me? The ship shook suddenly as it broke through a pocket of turbulence. She nearly fell. He reached out and steadied her with one hand, his grip firm but not cruel. Their eyes met. For a reason, he said simply, pulling his hand back. Her mind filled with questions, but no answers came, only silence, the hum of the ship, the endless stars outside. Hours passed, the ship drifting deeper into the void. Lena's body trembled from exhaustion, but her mind refused to rest. She thought of the whispers in the market, the hungry eyes, the cruel laughter. She thought of her own voice, whispering words she didn't understand. Hold me. Use me. Just get me out of here. And now she was out, but she wasn't free. The hooded figure moved to a metal chest in the corner. He opened it slowly. Inside were strange objects. Lena's eyes widened. She recognized them. Human items. A book with torn pages, a child's shoe, a broken wristwatch. Her breath caught, her voice a whisper. Those are ours. He looked at her, his pale eyes steady. Yes, they are. Her heart raced, her hope grew, but fear still chained it down. She wanted to ask more, but before she could, the ship's alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the cabin. The hooded figure stood tall, his voice sharper now. They have found us. Lena's stomach dropped. Her hands shook. Outside the window she saw shadows moving, alien ships circling like wolves. The buyer was not her end, but he might also not be her savior. And as the hunters closed in, she realized Zetter's story had only grown darker. The red alarm lights painted the cabin in shadows. The ship shook under the pressure of enemy fire. Lena clutched the cold metal walls, her breath sharp and fast. Outside the window, dark alien hunters moved like predators, circling, waiting, their weapons glowing. The hooded figure stood firm at the controls, his scarred hands dancing across switches and levers. The ship twisted, engines screaming as it dodged the first blast. Lena stumbled and fell to her knees. The chains cut into her wrists. She cried out, but her voice was lost in the roar of metal. He turned his head for only a moment, his pale eyes locking on hers. Stay down, he commanded, his voice steady, calm, even as the world burned around them. Another blast shook the hull. Sparks burst from the ceiling, smoke filled the air. Lena coughed, her throat burning. Fear clawed at her chest. She wanted to scream, to beg. But then she saw the strange box still open in the corner. The human objects shining faintly in the red light. A book, a shoe, a broken watch. They didn't belong here. They didn't belong in this alien ship. They belonged to people like her, people who were gone, eaten, sold, destroyed. Her lips trembled, her voice weak. What are those? Why do you have them? For the first time, the hooded figure looked away from the battle, only for a second, his face shadowed but clear enough, his voice low, heavy with weight. Because you are not the first. Her heart stopped. What? What do you mean? She whispered. His eyes returned to the stars, his hands steady on the controls. I have taken others before you, from the market, from the cages, from the hunters. His words cut like steel. Some lived, some did not, but every one of them left something behind. Lena's chest tightened, tears burned in her eyes. Why? Because this trade must end, he said, his voice colder now, filled with fire. The galaxy thinks humans are weak, soft food, but they do not know the truth. They do not know what you can become. The ship twisted again, dodging another barrage. The hunters hissed through the comms, voices sharp and cruel, demanding the human, demanding the price be paid in blood. Lena held the chain close to her chest, her voice trembling. You saved me, but I'm still in chains. I'm still nothing. His pale eyes met hers again, calm and steady. Chains mean nothing. What matters is what you choose to do when they break. Her body shook, fear and hope crashing together inside her. She wanted to believe him, she wanted to trust, but trust was dangerous. Trust was how humans died. The ship's alarm screamed louder, a red warning flashing across the screen, enemy boarding, claws tearing into the hull. Lena's breath caught in her throat. The hooded figure reached into the box, pulling out something wrapped in cloth. He tossed it to her. It landed in her lap with a heavy thud. She looked down, her hands trembling as she unwrapped it. A weapon, small, old, but human. Her eyes widened, her breath sharp. This is ours. Yes, he said, his voice like iron. And now, it is yours. She looked at him, her voice breaking. I can't. I don't know how. You will, he cut her off, his eyes burning now. Because you must. The ship shook again. The walls cracked, smoke poured in. Shadows moved across the window, claws scraping, hunters entering. Lena clutched the weapon tight, her hands shaking, her heart pounding. The hooded figure pulled his own blade, curved and sharp. He moved toward the door. Before he opened it, he turned to her one last time. You asked me to hold you, to use you, to get you out of there. His voice lowered, calm. I cannot carry you, but I can give you the chance to carry yourself. The door burst open. Alien hunters flooded inside, their eyes glowing, their teeth sharp, hissing, hungry. Lena screamed as one lunged, but her finger pulled the trigger by instinct. Light burst from the weapon. The creature fell back with a roar, smoke curling from its chest. Her body shook, her ears rang, but she was still standing, still breathing. The hooded figure slashed through another, his blade cutting clean. The cabin filled with chaos, metal against claw, fire against flesh. For the first time, Lena was not only prey, she was fighting, and in the middle of battle, she heard him whisper, calm and steady, even as death swirled around them. This is only the beginning. The hunters screamed in rage. The ship rocked under their weight. The air burned with smoke and fire, but in Lena's chest, something new was burning too. Not just fear, not just pain, but a fragile spark of defiance, a spark that refused to die. The ship groaned under the weight of the hunters. Claws dug into the hull. Metal screeched as sparks rained across the cabin. Lena stood frozen, her weapon clutched in her trembling hands, her breath shallow, her eyes wide. The hooded figure moved like a storm, his blade flashing in the red light, every strike fast, precise, merciless. Hunters fell at his feet, hissing and thrashing, but more poured in through the broken door, their bodies tall and twisted, their teeth glistening. Lena's mind screamed at her to run, to hide, but her body refused to move. One hunter leapt at her, jaws wide. She raised the weapon without thinking. Her finger pulled the trigger. Light burst. The creature slammed into the wall, smoke curling from its chest. Her heart pounded, her whole body shaking. She had never killed before, never even fought, but the hooded figure's voice echoed in her memory. Chains mean nothing. What matters is what you choose to do when they break. The ship tilted sharply, alarms blaring, the engines whined in pain. They were being dragged down, hunters clinging to the outside, ripping at the hull like beasts tearing flesh. We cannot hold here. the hooded figure shouted, his voice steady even in the chaos. To live, we must break free. How? Lena gasped, stumbling as the floor shook beneath her. He slashed another hunter down and pointed toward the rear of the cabin. The power core. Overload it. But time it right, or we die. Lena's blood ran cold. She looked back. Smoke and sparks filled the narrow hall. The power core glowed faintly at the end. The hunters hissed, their claws scraping closer. She wanted to scream that she couldn't do it, but the weapon in her hands reminded her she had already done what she thought impossible. She ran, chains rattling, feet slipping on the scorched floor. Hunters turned, their glowing eyes following her. One lunged, she fired. The blast threw it back, but two more were climbing over its body. Her lungs burned, her body shook, but she didn't stop. She reached the power core, its surface hot and humming like a beating heart. She saw the panel, wires tangled, lights flashing red. Her hands shook as she reached for the controls. What do I do? She screamed. Twist the red lever, break the seal. The hooded figure shouted back, his blade cutting through another attacker. Then run! She swallowed hard, grabbed the lever, twisted. It resisted at first, then gave way with a crack. Energy surged through the ship. The hum grew louder. The walls trembled. The hunters hissed, some backing away, sensing the danger, but others pushed forward, hungry, desperate. Run! The hooded figure roared. Lena sprinted back down the hall. The floor shook under her feet. Her chains dragged, the weapon heavy in her arms. She fired blindly, each shot lighting the smoke-filled air. The HFY Hunters screamed, some fell, some leapt aside. The hooded figure caught her arm and pulled her through the cabin, his grip strong, his steps fast. Hold steady, he said, slamming his hand on the control panel. The ship jerked violently, spinning, breaking free from the hunters clinging outside. Behind them, the power core roared like a beast, then exploded in a burst of light. Fire and metal tore through the ship's rear. The blast threw the hunters into the void, their screams lost in space. The ship lurched forward, nearly tearing itself apart. Lena fell against the wall, her chest heaving, smoke filling her lungs, her ears ringing, but they were moving, faster, lighter, free. The hooded figure staggered back to the controls, his scarred hands flying over the switches. The engines roared, sparks spitting, but the ship obeyed, soaring through the dark, leaving the hunters behind. Lena pressed her back to the wall, clutching her weapon, her whole body trembling, sweat dripping down her face, tears burning her eyes. She wanted to cry, to laugh, to collapse, but her voice refused to come. The hooded figure glanced at her, his pale eyes steady, his voice calm again. You did well. She shook her head, her voice cracking. I almost died. But you lived, he answered, and you fought. She stared at him, her lips trembling. She wanted to ask why he cared, why he risked everything, why he had saved her. But before the words could form, the ship's warning lights flashed again, the console glowing red. Lena's heart dropped. What now? He scanned the controls, his jaw tight. The core is gone. The engines will not last long. We need shelter. Her eyes widened, fear returning. Where? He turned slowly, his scarred face shadowed. To a place few dare to go, but where you will find answers. The stars stretched out before them, endless and cold, the ship trailing. Smoke. The danger was not over, but for the first time, Lena felt the faintest spark of something she had almost forgotten. Hope. She held the weapon tighter, the chains on her wrists digging deep, but her eyes steady, her voice quiet. Then take me there. The hooded figure nodded once, silent, his eyes forward, guiding the broken ship into the dark unknown. And in that silence, Lena realized something had changed. She was no longer only prey, she was no longer waiting to be saved. She was walking into the storm with her own fire. The escape had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The ship drifted through the endless dark, its engines coughing smoke. Metal cracked from the last battle. Lena sat in silence, her wrists still bound in chains, her weapon resting across her lap, her eyes fixed on the stars. The hooded figure guided the vessel with steady hands, his scarred face calm though his body was weary. Silence filled the cabin, broken only by the hum of dying engines. For hours they traveled deeper and deeper into the void, until the stars themselves seemed to fade. Lena's voice was soft, almost a whisper. Where are we going? He did not look at her, his pale eyes locked on the controls. To a place hidden from the hunters, a place where your kind still lives. Her heart stumbled. Other humans. Yes, he said simply, but do not think it will be easy. Her chest tightened. She had dreamed of finding others, dreamed of not being alone, yet fear gnawed at her. What if they were gone? What if they hated her? What if they were broken beyond repair? The ship descended into the shadow of a giant asteroid, its surface jagged, hollow, lifeless. To her eyes, it was only rock, but as they drew closer, lights flickered deep inside, small and faint, but real. The hooded figure pressed a series of codes into the console. The asteroid groaned and opened like a mouth, revealing a hidden hangar. The ship slid inside, scraping against the walls, engines gasping one final time. B. Before dying completely, Lena gripped the sides of her seat as they landed, her heart racing, her chains rattling. She expected silence, emptiness, but instead voices filled the air, human voices. The ramp lowered with a hiss, and she saw them, men, women, even children, thin and tired, their clothes patched together from scraps, their eyes sharp with suspicion, their hands holding tools, pipes, even stolen alien weapons. They stared at her with disbelief, some whispering, some glaring. "She's new," one man muttered, his voice bitter. "Another one he bought." "Another mouth to feed," a woman hissed, her arms crossed tight. Lena shrank back, her heart twisting. She had imagined joy, family, but instead she felt their mistrust like knives. She looked at the hooded figure, but he said nothing, only walked forward, his presence silencing them. The humans parted reluctantly, some bowing their heads, others refusing to meet his eyes. Lena followed slowly, her chains dragging, every whisper digging deeper into her skin. They led her through dark tunnels carved into the rock. Faint lights flickered along the walls. The air smelled of oil and smoke. Water dripped from cracks above. Life here was not comfort. It was survival. At last they reached a wide chamber, filled with makeshift shelters, fires burning in barrels, children huddled close to their mothers, eyes hollow with hunger. Lena's chest ached. She wanted to run to them, to embrace them, but the weight of her chains kept her frozen. The hooded figure finally spoke, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Another has been saved." The crowd murmured, some hopeful, some doubtful. An old man stepped forward, his face lined with scars, his voice rough. "Saved for what? She is weak, she is frightened, she will only bring danger." Lena's throat tightened, tears burned her eyes. She wanted to defend herself, but no. Words came, the hooded figure's eyes were steady. She fought. Gasps spread through the crowd. The old man narrowed his eyes. "She fought." "Yes," the hooded figure answered. "She killed one of the hunters with her own hands." The whispers grew louder. Some eyes softened, others hardened. Lena felt the weight of every stare, her body shaking under their judgment. The old man turned to her, his voice sharp. "Is it true?" Her lips trembled. She nodded slowly. "Yes," her voice cracked. "I didn't want to, but I had to." The man studied her, then looked back at the crowd. "Then perhaps she is not only meat." The tension eased, only slightly. Some nodded, some still glared. But for the first time, Lena felt the spark of something different, not welcome, but possibility. That night, she sat near a fire, the chains still on her wrists, the heat warming her cold skin. Children stared at her with wide eyes, curious, afraid. One small girl whispered, "Are you real?" Lena smiled faintly, though her lips shook. "Yes, I'm real." The girl touched her hand, then ran back to her mother. Lena's heart ached. She had found her people, yet she still felt like a stranger. The hooded figure approached, sitting across from her, his scarred face half lit by the fire, his voice calm. "You see now, they are alive, but not free, not yet." Lena looked around. The hollow faces, the broken shelters, the whispers of fear. "They need more than hiding," she said softly. "They need hope." His pale eyes met hers, steady. "Then give it to them." Her chest tightened, her voice a whisper. "Me." "Yes," he said, his tone final. "Chains mean nothing. Remember, it is choice that matters, and they must see someone choose to fight." Her heart pounded, fear crashing into her again. She wanted to refuse, to say she wasn't strong enough, but as she looked into the eyes of the children, she realized the truth. She had already begun. The hidden colony had given her a new weight, a new fire. She was no longer alone, and though their trust was fragile, though their lives were hard, she could feel it. A storm was coming, and she was standing in the center of it. The hidden colony did not sleep easily, even in the safety of the asteroid. Fear lingered in every corner. Shadows stretched across the tunnels. Whispers filled the air. Lena sat by the fire with her chains wrapped around her arms, her eyes staring into the flames. She had thought finding other humans would bring comfort, but instead it brought weight. They were alive but broken, surviving, but not living. The children's eyes were hollow, the adults sharp with suspicion. Some saw her as hope, others as danger. The hooded figure moved through the chamber, his presence commanding silence. He spoke only a few words. "The hunters will come." Gasps spread through the crowd. Some cried, some clenched their fists. The old man with scars stepped forward, his voice heavy. "They always come, and each time we hide, we lose more. This place cannot last forever. Lena's chest tightened. She looked around at the tired faces. Every eye turned toward the hooded figure, waiting for answers, waiting for leadership. But his pale eyes turned instead to her. She fought, he said, his voice steady. She killed a hunter when all others would have fallen. She carries a fire that they cannot extinguish. Lena's heart jumped. Fear clawed at her throat. She shook her head quickly. No, I can't. But the crowd was already murmuring, whispers of her name spreading. The old man's voice cut through, sharp and bitter. She is only a girl, weak, chained. What can she do that we cannot? Lena's lips trembled, her voice a whisper. I don't know. The hooded figure stepped closer, his scarred face hard. You can choose. Her eyes lifted to his, confusion mixing with fear. Choose what? Yet, hide, he said, his voice echoing, or fight. The chamber fell silent, the fire crackled. Every human leaned in, waiting. Lena's chest rose and fell, her chains heavy on her wrists. She remembered the market of shadows, the claws, the hunger, the whispers calling her meat. She remembered the ship, the hunters, the weapon in her hands, the fire in her chest when she pulled the trigger. She looked around at the faces before her, children clinging to their mothers, men and women holding broken tools like weapons. So fragile, so desperate. They wanted to live, but they needed more than hiding. Her voice cracked, soft but steady. If we keep hiding, they will find us anyway. They will hunt us until we are nothing. But if we fight, maybe they will finally see what we are. The crowd stirred, some nodding, some shaking their heads. The old man growled, Fight with what? Sticks and scraps, you will lead us to death. Lena stood, her legs shaking, but her eyes firm. Then better to die fighting than to die in chains. The chamber roared with voices, some shouting in agreement, others in anger. The old man sneered, And who will lead this foolish fight, you? Her breath caught. She looked at the hooded figure, his pale eyes calm, silent, waiting. He would not choose for her. This was hers alone. Lena's voice trembled, but she forced the words out. Yes. The chamber froze. Every sound cut short. Dozens of eyes stared at her, the air thick with disbelief. She swallowed hard, her chest heavy. I don't know how. I don't have answers, but I will not run. I will not hide. If you want to live, stand with me. If you want to be free, fight with me. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a young boy stepped forward, his voice small but clear. I will fight. His mother pulled him close, tears in her eyes, but she nodded. So will I. Others followed, one by one, hands raised, voices joining, until the chamber echoed. And with cries of defiance, the old man shook his head, his face dark. You will bring ruin on us all, he spat. But his voice was drowned by the sound of hope rising for the first time in years. The hooded figure stepped beside her, his blade still strapped to his back, his voice low enough only she could hear. You have chosen. Her hands shook, her chest heavy, but her eyes burned with fire. Yes. He nodded once, calm, certain. Then we will teach them. That night, the colony stirred with new energy. Old weapons were cleaned, stolen tools sharpened, tunnels reinforced. For the first time, they were preparing not to hide, but to resist. Lena sat apart, her heart pounding, fear still in her veins, doubt still whispering in her mind. But each time she looked at the children, at the tired faces now lit with fragile hope, she knew there was no turning back. The hooded figure approached, sitting across from her by the fire, his voice calm. Tomorrow they may come. When they do, you must stand. They will follow you, not me. Her voice cracked. Why me? His pale eyes were steady. Because you are theirs. Because they need to see one of their own, refuse to be meat, and because you already chose. She looked into the fire, the chains on her wrists heavy, but for the first time, she did not see them as weakness. She saw them as a promise, a reminder of what she would break. Her voice was soft but certain. Then I will not run. The hooded figure's lips curved slightly, not a smile, but something close. Then the galaxy will learn. Humans are not prey. The fire crackled. The whispers of the colony grew into chants of courage. Lena closed her eyes, her heart steady. She had made her choice, and the hunters would soon learn what it meant. The asteroid shook before dawn. Alarms rang through the tunnels. The hunters had come. Their ships circled outside like vultures, claws scraping against stone as they drilled through the outer walls. The hidden colony had been found. Lena stood at the front chamber, the broken weapon tight in her hands, the chains still wrapped around her wrists. Though she could have removed them, she kept them, not as weakness, but as a reminder of where she had been. The humans gathered behind her, their faces pale, their bodies thin, but their eyes carried a new fire. Some held sharpened pipes, others stolen alien rifles. Children were hidden deep in the caves, guarded by the old and the weak. Everyone else was ready. The hooded figure stood at her side, his blade strapped to his back, his pale eyes scanning the tunnel mouth where the first cracks appeared. His voice was calm. They will come fast. They will come cruel. Show them fear does not rule here. Lena's chest rose and fell, her heart heavy but steady. She looked at the frightened faces behind her, then turned to the fire burning inside her. Her voice cut through the chamber. "We are not prey!" The words echoed, and the colony shouted them back. "We are not prey!" The wall cracked. Stone and fire burst inward. Hunters stormed through, their bodies tall and twisted, their claws dripping with hunger, their voices hissing, "Meat!" Lena raised her weapon. The first blast tore through the smoke. A hunter fell, screaming. The humans roared, charging forward, their weapons striking, their voices fierce. The battle raged through the tunnels, fire and blood mixing with smoke. The hunters were strong, fast, brutal, but the humans were desperate. Every strike was fueled by years of fear, years of chains. Every cry was a refusal to be food. Lena fought in the center, her hands trembling but steady. Each shot struck true. Each scream of a hunter filled her with more resolve. Beside her, the hooded figure moved like a shadow, his blade cutting clean, his steps unshaken. The hunters snarled, but they began to falter. Unused to prey that bit back, unused to meat that fought like wolves. One hunter broke through, rushing toward the children's tunnel. Lena saw it. Her chest tightened. She sprinted, her chains rattling. She threw herself forward, firing point blank. The blast burned through its chest. The creature fell, smoke rising. The children cried out, but their voices carried hope. "She saved us," they shouted, their words spreading like fire through the battle. The humans grew louder, their chants rising with every strike. "We are not meat." The hunters hissed. Their leader stepped forward, larger, armored, his eyes glowing red, his claws dripping with steel. His voice filled the chamber. "You are food, nothing more." Lena stepped into the open, chains dragging, her body bruised, her voice strong. "No, we are the future." The leader roared and charged, claws swinging. Lena raised her weapon, but the blast struck only his armor. He slammed into her, knocking her to the ground. Pain shot through her body. Her weapon slid across the floor. The hooded figure moved to strike, but 3 hunters blocked him, dragging him back. Lena lay gasping, the leader towering above her, his jaws wide. Her eyes fell on her chains, the metal heavy around her wrists. Not weakness, not shame, but strength. She wrapped the chain around her fist and swung. The metal cracked against his jaw. His head snapped back. The crowd roared, hope exploding like fire. Lena scrambled to her feet, grabbed her weapon and fired. This time the blast struck true, burning through his chest. The leader roared, stumbling, then fell to the ground with a final hiss. Silence filled the chamber. The hunters froze, their leader gone, their courage broken. The humans shouted again, louder than ever, "We are not meat." The remaining hunters hissed, retreating into the smoke, dragging their wounded, their ships screaming as they fled back into the void. The battle was over. The chamber echoed with cries of victory, humans embracing, tears mixing with laughter, children running to their parents, weapons lifted high. For the first time, they had not just survived, they had won. Lena stood in the center, her chest heaving, her chains bloody but shining. She raised her weapon high, her voice breaking but strong. "We are not food, we are not prey, we are human." The colony roared, their voices shaking the stone walls, their fire burning brighter than ever. The hooded figure stepped forward, his blade dripping, his pale eyes steady on her. "They will come again," he said, his voice calm. "Others will hear of this, but you have shown them, humans are not meat." Lena met his gaze, her voice firm. "Then let them come. We will fight. We will rise." As the fires burned and the colony celebrated, a faint signal crackled through the broken console. A voice in the static, human, desperate but alive. "This is Outpost 7, it whispered. "We hear you. We are here." Lena's heart leapt, her eyes wide. She looked at the hooded figure, then back at her people. The fight was not over, it was only beginning. For the first time, the galaxy would see humans not as prey, not as meat, but as a force that refused to die. And Lena, once a prisoner, once chained, stood as the spark of that fire. The war for humanity had begun.